Welcome to the Beyond Divorce, Embracing Change podcast. My name is Michael Flores, and I will be your host while we explore the complex journey of divorce with empathy, insight, and practical knowledge. Whether you're contemplating separation, in a divorce, or looking for support post-divorce, our episodes provide expert guidance, stories, and strategies to help you through every step of the process. We are actual therapists, helping clients who sit on our couches every day through their difficulties of divorce. You are not alone. Join us as we delve in and find solutions that give you hope again. We're glad you're here.
This podcast is not intended to replace legal or personal help. This podcast is for informational purposes only.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Beyond Divorce, Embracing Change. We're here with Jen.
Hello.
Jen, I like this topic because especially, with summertime, I think it's really good to go over this when it's any type of transition. We got kids getting involved in sports or, as they get older, they want to work and they want to date. There's transitions in kids' lives throughout their lives.
Exactly.
And so, parents understanding how those transitions work and kind of working through it with the kids, it comes up so often. Transitions, and so I'm glad that you brought this up and said this might be a good one. And this one particularly is about summer transitions.
Yeah.
Kids transitioning from a school year to, 2.5
Not
months? Yeah, not school.
Not school.
2.5 months
Yes.
of a break, and we have camps, and you name it. I got kids wanting to go to like 3 or 4 different camps.
Oh, yeah. I have one kid she's like, I have like 2 weeks the whole summer that I don't have something.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
It's theater camps. I'm like, okay.
Sheer busyness. And then we have parents with certain schedules where they have like a whole month in July.
Yeah.
And
and that's kind of what the first part of this is about the possession schedule.
Yeah, let's touch on that.
Because especially in Texas, there's there's a consistent schedule that they set up typically for summer is usually if there's a primary and there's a secondary parent, then, the non-primary parent gets the kid for about a month usually the month of July. For some reason, that's what they've decided. And, it's good to know what your requirements are based on what your custody order is, obviously. But there's some typical things that happen that I see a lot with clients. And it can be a weird transition, especially maybe younger kids. They're not used to being away from the other parent for a long period of time.
Right.
And they're scared. They're fresh. They don't know what to do. They start acting out. So you got to really think about what your possession schedule is. I also know that, in a lot of orders, if you want to have 2 weeks here or do this or do that, you have to give notice by like April.
Yeah. So what you're saying is in the possession schedule, the court has ordered a schedule typically to be a certain way. So that we're talking about parents that are in court or litigating or there's a final order in place. And then you have the parents that are just starting the process.
Yeah.
And so it's almost everything's done by agreement. I think the hard thing where parents get stuck is when the kid wants to do something, but it falls on the other parent's possession time.
Yeah.
Does that seem to happen a lot?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. How do you navigate that when you're working with kids come into your office and they want to go do a camp, but it's on dad's time, right? And dad's going to be the one that doesn't really get to see a kid a lot during the school year, maybe.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate that either with the child, with the parent? What do you do in that situation?
With the kids, it's a little tricky because they don't really get a say. I mean, they want to I want to go to this camp, I want to go do this. The thing is, sometimes they're too scared to tell the other parent. Mm-hmm. They're like, well, I don't want to tell them because they're going to be mad. Mm-hmm. Or they're going to tell me no and I can't go. And it's true. It can be true. And I tell them that. I was like, well, that might be true, but how will you know if you don't ask? At least ask your parents.
Right. So you encourage the kids to speak up about what they're interested in.
I want them to say what they actually want.
Right.
Because it's important for their parents to know. Now, obviously, at the same time, parents can't always meet all the wants of a kid.
Right.
We all know that. You got to be a parent and you've got other stuff to deal with. So helping the kids understand that even if the parent says no, still putting out what they want is helpful.
Yeah. And I think I want to chime in here and just say that what I would encourage parents to remember is that when things are that specific and there's a schedule in place, as much as the kid may not want to do it, it gives a sense of comfort of knowing what to expect. It's all the uncertainty that causes a lot of stress for parents, but really causes a lot of stress for your kids, not knowing what.
It's fear of the unknown.
Yeah, it is fear of the unknown, right? And that we call that angst. And so it's just one of these things where what I encourage parents to do is like that consistent build, right? That like, hey, you're going to have, I know you love going to camp 101 around.
Yeah.
Whatever, I made that up. That's a camp you enjoy. And so every year this kid wants to do that. It's almost as if you just plan for it. Like we know this is what he's going to want to do, or he or she. And then I noticed you made a notation here about flexibility and really building in that flexibleness of saying, hey, this is obviously some time that we're both going to miss or I'm going to miss. Let's work something out to make this work for the kid.
Exactly.
And that's sometimes hard for parents to do. It's
really hard for parents to do, especially when one parent may feel like, well, I always give them what they want, but they never give me what I want.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
But having some flexibility in, this whole topic, it's all about the kid. Having an understanding that you can allow your kids to go do stuff on your time, that doesn't mean it's not taking away from the other person.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard. Part of it's being notified, though, ahead of time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I do get a lot of parents who don't tell the other parent, oh, they have this and this and this.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're frustrated because they get the kid and they're like, oh, well, I got to go to camp. And they're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Because the parents aren't talking to each other.
And I think that's the second part of what you were talking about earlier is the communication. And so what do you do to help facilitate that type of communication when it comes to schedules and possession, access, things? How do you typically do that in a session with parents?
I try to talk to both parents together and put the focus on the kid.
Right.
Open up the communication and say, what's important to you and what's important to you to each parent. Now, what's important to your kid and where does it match?
Right.
It's trying to help them understand it doesn't have to be because I don't want to do it because she wants me to.
Okay.
Or, I'm not going to allow him to have the kid on my time because they're closer and they can get them to the event.
Right.
Because some parents have more flexible schedules, so they're the ones that drive them around a little bit more.
Yeah.
But having a little bit of communication, a little flexibility with both of those things, and just being able to have a simple conversation about your kid. It's not about you two. I've told parents that a lot. I'm like, it's not about y'all.
Well, I think what happens with kids in the communication that I see, the breakdown is the kid is requesting they want to do something.
Yeah.
The parent is then, one of the parents is going back and feeling that the kid is being influenced by the other parent to want to do that so they can have less time with them.
Yeah.
And so they believe that it's an undermining of sorts.
Exactly.
And so what I've learned to do, and I'll give this to the parents, is I've learned to just be curious. A kid comes in and says, I really want to go do this camp. And if I go do it, Dad's going to be upset because, I'm supposed to have so much time with him in the summer and it's going to fall on Dad's time and he's going to be mad.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, well, let's not try to change that. Let's just tell me about this camp. What are you interested in?
Yeah.
How come this camp?
Yeah.
Is this camp only run on that time? Or, sometimes there's waiting lists where kids have to get in. So it's kind of out of their hands. But I like to ask and inquire about the information. I've learned it's better to be curious.
Yeah.
Almost in every situation than anything else. And that curiosity will help you kind of understand better what's going on there. And if there is an agenda against you as a parent, I'm speaking to you parents, if there is an agenda that's happening against you, your curiosity is what's going to help uncover that.
Exactly.
And so it's not going to be your defensiveness and your, no, that's my time. And what happens is kids use this term selfish.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, because kids are selfish.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Because they have to understand self, right? So this selfishness thing comes up and the parents believe that it's a selfish act of sorts that this kid wants to go do these things on their own time and they're not, I'm losing time with my kid.
Yeah.
I look at it as an investment of time.
Yeah.
And so it's about where you put it because that time is going to influence the relationship and how you use that time and how you maneuver that time. And so being curious, parents, and kind of gaining more information about the interest your child has is going to tell you more about where it's coming from and what the interest is. Now, when you have an inflexible parent on the other side, so kids coming to you going, I want to go to Camp 101 around, it's on your time. And you're like, okay, I'm going to miss out about a week. So you reach out to the other parent and say, hey, Camp 101 around, I got it, they want to go. However, it's gonna alter a week of my time in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to figure out how we can make this work so that I can get my time back, right? That week that I'm losing.
Yeah.
And that parent won't respond to them. Or that parent says, I have to lose time too. Or How do you navigate those things, Jen, when
Well,
that comes up?
ultimately, no one's really losing time.
Mm-hmm.
The kid wants to spend time away from both of you.
You want to tell them that again?
Yes. Well, because think about it. If you really think about the crux of it, the kid wants to go to this camp because they want to learn new skills, or they want to improve their skills. They want to soccer camps, basketball camps. I mean, there's so many things out there. I've got one kid, I think he's going to a fire camp, like a fireman's.
Oh, that's neat.
So that's kind of cool. But the thing is, it's about your kid. It's
right.
not, and I mean, it goes into like the focus is on them. It's not about what time they're spending with, because either way, they're not going to spend it with either parent that time. Now, whoever has them that evening, you get them, unless it's an overnight camp. But, that's a little different. But I mean, spanning out the camps or their activities where it's impacting both parents kind of equally.
Yep.
That's another way to look at this and say, okay, well, I have them this week of this project, this event. You have them during that other event that time. So you're both getting less time.
I think the question that parents need to be asking themselves is, how can we make this work?
Yeah.
Versus this is what's not working, or this is what they're doing. We get so caught in what's missing that we forget to ask we can do to make it work.
It's a solution.
Yeah. How do we make this? How do we make this work? Or how can we do this to where our kiddo? I think your point was really good, Jen, when you said maybe you consider that the fact that the child is getting a break from you guys too.
Yeah.
Like, this is a kid's way of going, this is a childhood I get to still have by going to a summer camp, and I don't have to deal with whatever you guys got going on throughout the whole school year.
Yeah. Well, and they have more free time. So, I mean, they're not in school. They're used to being in, and that's actually one of the topics here is routines. They're used to having a schedule.
Right.
You go to summer and it's like free time. One, they get bored really easily.
Yeah.
They don't have anything to do. They start acting out because they want your attention, and you got to work. And, it causes issues in other ways. So kind of finding a way to keep a routine, keep a schedule going where there is something, but not overpacked.
Yes.
Because overpacking the schedule does the same thing that school does. It wears them out, exhausts them, it stresses them out, it makes them a little anxious because it's too much going on. They do need some downtime, obviously, but they also need, one of the things I hear a lot with kids is they want quality time with their parents in the summer, where they're not just in the same house. They're doing something together.
Okay. Like excursions.
Either excursions or even just going to the park. I mean, it doesn't have to be a huge excursion. It's just doing something with the parent for a period of time. I've had some kids who are like, I don't want to go to the beach for the week. Like, I don't want to go on vacation for a week because it feels like we're never stopping.
I wonder if parents realize that for a child going between two homes, it's like having two jobs.
Yeah.
Like if you task these parents, say, okay, you have a primary job, you work, most of them, right? And now you're going to pick up a second job.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing you're thinking is, oh God, I got to do, so you're going to pick up a second job, and you don't have a choice.
Yeah. You don't.
Yeah, you're going to pick up a second job because you have to.
And you got to learn the people that live there, and you've got to learn your new coworkers and your new surroundings, your new environment. And it's a little bit of that's where the transition comes from, because you're going back and forth.
Sure. And so the greatest thing I've learned from kids that they seem to appreciate from parents when they kind of go through this process is they really do appreciate the flexibility when it can be there.
They do.
And there are times when it can't.
Yeah.
And I think that's why that question's so powerful, is how can we make this work?
Yeah.
When you're a parent and you're, like you said earlier, you're a parent who flexes all the time and you feel like the other side doesn't flex.
Yeah.
That's a question you can ask them, is how do you envision this working? How can we make this work? And so what you're doing is you're really asking them to help you solve the problem. I think a lot of parents get stuck because they think they have to solve everything.
Yeah.
And I like asking, like, how can we make this work?
Yeah.
I've been stuck in parent sessions before when they're in the communication cycle, and they're doing the old stuff that doesn't work, where they'll spend minutes, like 20 minutes. I've had a session where they spent 20 minutes doing it.
I had one very recently.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we were doing.
I literally said, what do you feel like you guys are accomplishing in this dialogue? And they looked at me like nothing. And I said, which one of you really understands what the other one's trying to explain? Like, do you know what he's trying to say? Do you know what she's trying to say? And maybe you can explain it to me. And then I want you to verify if that's they got it right.
Yeah.
And they almost never get it right.
Oh, no.
And so then I said, can I take a stab at it? And they say, sure. And then I explain what I think I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And then I always get, I say always, most of the time I get, yeah, that's it. Or that's
Yeah.
pretty close. And then they look at me kind of like, how can you tell? Well, it's because I know how to look for what's underneath what the words that you're saying.
Yeah.
And I want to to train people how to communicate like this. It's not about learning the perception that someone has. It's understanding the perspective in which they take.
Exactly.
I don't know how to say it any better.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it, because perspective is not the same thing.
Yeah, it's looking at it from their point of view. Perception is their point of view.
Yeah.
Let me explain my point of view. That's perception. Why don't you sit over here in this chair and look at it? That's perspective, right?
Yes.
That's like if I look, like I'm looking out the window right now and I'm seeing Fort Worth.
Yeah.
But if I go up the building to the 6th floor and take a same look at it, it's going to look a little different. The landscape may be bigger, smaller, whatever, but it's going to have a different
see more
view.
buildings than the tops of
And
trees.
that's perspective. If I have a person on the 6th floor explain what downtown looks like and someone on the 2nd floor explain what downtown looks like, I'm going to get two very different responses.
Yeah.
And so when parents take the role of perspective by asking questions and being curious, that's how they gain information to help them communicate things like summer transitions and schedules.
Oh, yeah.
So
go ahead. I was going to say, one of the things that I was thinking about was that transition piece, but also if you have a chunk of time, like a month. I had a kid I worked with last year, the year before. She, her dad doesn't live in the same state.
Okay.
So, but she really wants to go to a camp. And the one she wants to go to is here in Texas. Well, Dad and her talked about it. He found another place that she could go to in his area that would suffice for what she was wanting to do.
Okay.
So he's like, I know this is really important to you. I want you to be able to go because I still want you to come. She didn't want to go to Dad's house because she would miss the camp that she wanted to go to.
So I found an equivalent camp.
Exactly. Now, I've also had parents who, similarly, there's a specific one here and not where the other parent lives.
Yep.
And they adjusted the time of when they were going.
Yep.
To allow for the kid to, and that's some flexibility too.
Yeah.
Part of that other piece of it though is when your kid, if you have primary custody and your kid is gone for a month, having some flexibility to still have a little bit of access to your kid, because the kid needs it. It's not because the parent needs it. Well, hopefully. Hopefully it's because the kid needs it. And I'm thinking more like, younger kids.
Sure.
Under 10 who want to, they live with mom full time and they're not with mom for a month. They're going to need to talk to mom at some point.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's something else to be a little flexible at, because I have other parents who are like, well, no, it's my time. You don't get to talk on the phone. And
I think they got to get rid of the idea of my time. It's the time you share. It's the child's time in which you share.
Correct.
How's that?
Yes, I like that.
Okay.
The time, it's the kid's time, not your time.
In which you share.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's go to the kids' well-being. Let's talk about this last topic here. What would you suggest or encourage parents to do so they can focus on the kids' well-being? What are some ways they can do that?
I think first, ask the kid what they're actually interested in. Don't just put them into camps to put them into camps.
Okay.
Don't sign them up for stuff that they may not actually want to do, because then you're going to have a hard time getting them there. Yeah. Now, obviously, if you're wanting them to try something new, that's different, but the approach is a little different.
Right.
But looking at what they actually want to do. Some kids don't want to do a lot of activities in the summer. They want that break from school. They want to just sit at home and watch TV. That's okay. Let them. Look at what they want to do. If they don't want to go on vacation, maybe find a different kind of vacation that they really want to go to, or something at wherever you're going that they would be interested in.
Yeah.
Include them in the planning. Now, I know a lot of parents like to surprise their kids with vacations, especially to Disney, which most kids are good with. Even older kids are good with that because it's fun.
Yes.
I want to go. So that's something to think about. I mentioned routines earlier, especially, and this is more for younger kids, keeping them on a somewhat schedule. Obviously, maybe they don't have to get up as early for school because school doesn't start at 8 o'clock, that you got to get up early. So maybe let them get up at 8. But having a schedule where they're getting up, I see a lot where kids they adjust their own schedule.
Right.
And they're up all night and then they sleep all day.
Yeah.
And it's great but it's also really hard to get back into the routine of the flip-flop when they go back to school. So trying to keep some kind of routine, even if it's just Monday through Friday, and still leave the weekends free.
Yeah.
So having a little bit of a schedule where certain things happen. Now, obviously, depending on parents and their jobs and what they do, whether the kids go to a daycare or not, or however it works, it's all kinds of fun.
A daycare. Yeah.
Daycare.
Yeah.
You know, include grandparents. You know, if you've got other family members who want to see the kids, send them there for the weekend.
Yeah, I mean,
give everybody a little bit of time.
I know this might be a little off topic, but I think the thing that I kind of think about a lot with kids is people don't ask them is typically what's their relationship like with their family, like their grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins.
Yeah.
Because when there's a divorce,
it
affects it affects the entire family system, and so the kids should not be penalized from having relationships with their grandparents because there's an issue with a parent.
Yeah.
Or kids shouldn't be penalized for having relationships with their cousins or aunts, uncles because there was a parent issue. It's divorce affects the entire family system.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, I mean, so it's really when you're considering kids' well-being is what the topic is.
Yeah,
you have to look at it as a whole picture for them.
Exactly.
You know, children didn't pick you guys; y'all created them.
You know, it's funny. I actually tell my kids every day that, especially when they're complaining, I'm like, you don't get to pick your parents. You don't get to pick your family. They're your family regardless. You have to figure out how to deal with them.
You know,
and kids handle them and work with them.
And kids are so amazing because they can love you past the hate.
Yeah, they can.
And they get stuck in it sometimes where they project the same hate that they feel like they've experienced from you. And it's sad because they don't know how to navigate that. Children.
No.
And kids are natural avoiders. I mean, so, you know, don't be upset when a kid's avoiding. That's how they solve problems that they don't want to deal with. How does a kid avoid something at school? Well, they'll act out and they get kicked out of the classroom or they have to sit out in the hallway and you know, they
go to sleep.
They go to, they'll just sleep. Yeah, the kid's sleeping in my class. Well, what are they avoiding? You know, it could be that, or it could be, you know, you get refreshed.
Yeah.
I think the thing that we if we're really going to focus on kids' well-being, is I think I would encourage parents to quit jumping to conclusions.
Oh yeah.
I think that you guys make your assumptions true and you don't flirt with them enough. And if you flirt with the assumption, that means you become curious about your assumptions. Doesn't mean you're wrong.
Yep.
It means that you're taking an opportunity to go, hey, it could be this, it could be that. I don't know. Let me ascertain more information to find out. And so I made a list here, Jen. We'll go through it.
Okay.
Just some key points here. It's important to review the schedule, remembering that consistency is key for kids. That creates a lot of security when you can.
Yeah.
Now we're going to say something a little opposite, which is being flexible.
Yeah.
And this is basically flexibility built into what the kid's really wanting to do, like kids' interest, right? We want to be flexible around the kid's interest, not parent interest. If you think the other parent has an agenda, it's a way to keep you away from the kids. You know, talk to your kids about their interest. That'll help uncover what it is you think that you're trying to understand. I think the other thing too is communicating to help solve the problem, which is really like, how are we going to solve this?
Yeah.
And one way you do that is I think you tell the other parent your goal, which is, hey, I really understand this camp's really important to go, you know, for our kid to go to. I'm really concerned I'm going to lose more time.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm already limited on that. How can we solve this?
Yeah.
And that takes the onus off of you trying to solve a problem you didn't create because it's being asked of you to be flexible, right?
Yeah.
So you're not going to say you're not going to be flexible. You're going to say, hey, I'd love to do that.
Is there something
here's what I want to make sure within this flexibility. Here's what I want to make sure doesn't happen. Right. I want to make sure this is maintained. So how can we solve this? And that's actually your question, right? So you tell her your goal. I would like to maintain the time that I get in the summer without losing any additional time. How can we solve this?
Yeah.
And when the other parent goes, I don't know, you go, well, when you have an idea of let me know, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
And now you don't have to offer anything. You're waiting.
Yeah.
You're not solving a problem you didn't create, right? And I think people do that too much. I think we try to solve problems that aren't ours. And then what ends up happening is we end up creating a bigger one because nothing's ever good enough. And so people catch themselves in what we call a double bind.
Yeah.
And it's where I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. And I think we probably should do a podcast on that.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
navigating the double bind.
Yeah.
And so
I think kids get stuck in the same thing though, because they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to ask the other parent, say, well, I know they're going to be upset because I want to spend time away from them.
Right.
When I'm supposed to be with
them.
them.
Kids fear the response. And so they'll avoid. And then you don't get the true answer from the child. And you think it's someone else because someone else is speaking
it's either
for them.
That or they think they have to figure it out themselves.
Mm.
And that's really
so
hard for the kids because they don't want to make either parent upset. They don't want to make anyone upset. They want everyone to be happy and like them. Not that their parents don't like them. It's just they perceive, their perception sometimes can be.
Yeah, I mean,
If I'm asking for something beyond what my parents are offering,
it's
they're
like
going to be mad.
Well, it's like fast forwarding. I mean, someday your kid gets married, and you're both going to want to be at the wedding. I mean, they're going to want to be in a place where they feel love and they don't sense your hate.
Yeah.
And so you guys navigating that now as children is more important because there's this bigger picture that's outside of all of us.
Yeah.
There's no attorneys or judges or counselors or amicuses or ad litems or, keep going, caseworkers.
All the people involved.
All the people that get involved in these cases, they're not going to be there in those moments, but you're going to want to be there. You still have to be a family after it's all done, guys.
I honestly had a parent ask me the other day, and they're like, well, I can tell, you asked me a direct question, I can give you an answer. I'm like, but she needs the answer, not me. And that's part of the communication key.
Yeah.
Is
goes
going
back to that.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I have is taking an interest in the kid's interest. Being interested in their interest, not having them interest in your interest. I think when kids are really little, we kind of bring them into the things we loved. Like if you love baseball, you bring your kid into that. You take your kids to baseball games, whatever. But when the kid finds an interest in something, you have to let that grow. There's a reason. There was a guy that said something to me. Do you know who Jack Canfield is?
Maybe.
You know the name? You ever heard of the series Chicken Soup for the Soul?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
So he originally started, he was the original. The OG, right?
The OG. Okay.
That's probably not what I should say.
Oh,
He's the original person for that. And anyway, Jack said something one day that I loved. He said, not every child dreams of being a doctor, and not every child dreams of being a lawyer. Not every child dreams of being, a mental health practitioner or whatever. He said, but there are some kids that do.
Yes.
And he said he believes that, and I don't want to misquote him here, but my understanding was he believes that children wake up or dream of these things differently because something has been planted into them before the beginning of time. And it could be something from God. And they're driven to it, right? And now experience is shape, right? So it's almost like there's a seed planted inside of you, you're born.
Yeah.
And then all these experiences you have in life kind of help facilitate where that goes.
Which way it goes.
Yeah. And so I don't know, because I'll be honest with you, I don't think I ever thought about being a mental health practitioner, but I always had an interest in being a part of helping people. Like I loved helping. I didn't know how.
Okay, that makes sense.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I always said I wanted to help people.
But you didn't know how you wanted to do it yet.
Initially, I wanted to be a teacher.
Well, see, and that was
but
in
a way, I'm still a teacher.
Uh-oh.
Just a different kind of teacher.
It's a different way.
I'm teaching about emotions instead of, facts at school.
So anyway, all I'm saying there is, taking an interest in your kid's interest, you want to help facilitate a way for your children to discover more about who they want to become.
And that's a whole other topic too, on letting go of your own passions to allow your kids to have theirs.
So Elsa had it right again when she's saying, let it go. Yeah, I love it. Well, thanks everyone for being here. Thank you, Jen, for doing this. I think talking about summer schedules and transitions is really important for parents. And it goes down to these things. Review schedule, consistency is key. Be flexible. Communicate how to solve those issues, and always take an interest in your kid's interest. Thanks again, everyone, for being here. Thank you so much. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook, and I hope you guys will look at us there. And if you haven't already subscribed to our podcast, please do so you don't miss any of the episodes. And give us some feedback. We're looking for some more questions. We haven't had questions in a while.
Yeah, we haven't. We need some.
Yeah, I know, we do. I'd like to get some more. Well, thank you, everyone. Keep moving forward.